The cycle of socialization, reproducing and resisting systemic inequality. 1. Understanding the cycle of socialization. The cycle of socialization, originally conceptualized by Bobby Harrow in the year 2000, is a powerful model for understanding how individuals are systematically socialized into oppressive systems and how these systems are maintained across generations. It reveals how social identities, race, gender, class, ability, sexuality, and so on are not natural, but are constructed and reinforced through a structured, cyclical process that limits consciousness and normalizes injustice. At its core, the cycle shows how inequity is taught, internalized, enforced, and reproduced not by accident, but through a predictable and often invisible process. It explains why dominant ideologies endure, even in the face of policy changes or individual good intentions. 2. Core processes of the cycle. The cycle of socialization consists of 6 interrelated stages, typically illustrated as a continuous loop. Each stage reinforces the next, making the cycle durable but also interruptible. The beginning, socialization before conscious choice. We are all born into pre-existing social systems marked by inequality. From birth, individuals are assigned social identities, for example, male, black, poor, disabled, and those identities come with preloaded meanings often tied to privilege or disadvantage. At this stage, we have no choice and are blameless, but we are positioned within structures of dominance or subordination. First, socialization, primary agents. As infants and young children, we are socialized by the people we trust most: parents, family, caregivers, teachers, and religious leaders. They teach us explicit and implicit messages about what is normal, acceptable, and valuable. These teachings often reflect societal biases related to race, gender, sexuality, language, and class. Even well-meaning adults may pass on stereotypes or silence critical issues in the name of tradition, culture, or protection. Institutional and cultural reinforcement. As we grow, socialization is reinforced and normalized by institutions such as schools, media, legal systems, religion, economy, and cultural norms. These systems legitimize dominant ideologies, what is considered smart, beautiful, moral, professional, or successful. The hidden curriculum in schools, the biases in textbooks, the lack of representation in leadership, all teach young people where they belong or don't. Enforcements and sanctions. When individuals begin to question or deviate from these norms, the cycle enforces itself through punishment, exclusion, ridicule, or silence. For example, a boy who cries may be told to man up. A learner who questions colonial curriculum may be labeled disruptive, or a girl who challenges gender roles may be shamed. This creates fear and reinforces conformity. Internalization and collusion. Over time, these external messages become internalized. People begin to believe the stereotypes, doubt their worth, and police themselves and others. Those with privilege may feel entitled or unaware of systemic advantages, while those in subordinate positions may collude with oppression, believing they are the problem. This is where imposter syndrome, learned helplessness, and internalized oppression take root. Perpetuation or disruption. The cycle offers 2 paths: perpetuation or disruption. If unquestioned, the cycle continues, oppression becomes normalized and passed on. But when individuals develop critical consciousness, encounter alternative narratives, or are part of transformative education, they can begin to disrupt the cycle personally and structurally. 3. Consequences of the cycle of socialization. The consequences are both personal and structural. Personal consequences: internalized shame, low self-worth, racial self-loathing, gender-based trauma, privileged ignorance, entitlement, resistance to change, silencing of critical thinking and ethical dissent. Structural consequences: reproduction of inequity in education, employment, housing, justice, endurance of racist, patriarchal, heteronormative, capitalist systems, continued marginalization of indigenous, queer, disabled, and poor voices. 4. Relevance in transformative and social justice education. The cycle of socialization is a foundational tool in social justice education and transformative pedagogy because it names the process of oppression. It helps learners and researchers understand that oppression is systemic, not individual, and that people are shaped by forces beyond their control. This enables a shift from blame to understanding and from guilt to responsibility. Fosters critical consciousness. By tracing the cycle, students begin to see the hidden curriculum of social life. This is the starting point for Freirean consciousness raising, the development of critical awareness and a desire to act. Frames research questions, for instance. Critical researchers use the cycle to ask, how has this policy, curriculum, media narrative been shaped by dominant ideologies? How do institutions reinforce or interrupt cycles of socialization? How do individuals navigate, resist, or internalize oppressive systems? Encourages reflexivity. Educators and scholars reflect on their own position in the cycle. How has my identity shaped the way I teach, supervise, or research? What privileges do I unconsciously protect? Where do I need to unlearn? Inspires disruptive praxis. The model empowers both individuals and institutions to design decolonized and inclusive curricula, challenge language policies that silence non-dominant tongues, transform leadership structures that reproduce exclusion, create learning environments that heal rather than harm. 5. Application in doctoral research and leadership. For PhD students and academic leaders working within the critical paradigm, the cycle of socialization provides a theoretical and practical scaffold to analyze institutional culture and practices of exclusion, co-design counter-hegemonic knowledge systems, explore internalized oppression in communities and educational spaces, engage in critical action research that disrupts rather than describes, refuse performative equity and instead reimagine structurally just alternatives. Conclusion: breaking the cycle, reclaiming the self. The cycle of socialization reveals that oppression is not only what is done to us, but what we are taught to do to ourselves and to others. Yet it also offers a gateway to transformation. Once we name the cycle, we are no longer bound by it. We can disrupt its logics, rehumanize our pedagogy, and rebuild society on the basis of justice, dignity, and solidarity. In the words of Bell Hooks, the moment we choose to love, we begin to move against domination, against oppression. Happy learning.